Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Shannon, what are we doing?
We're gonna tell some spooky stories.
Ooh, spooky, spooky. Ooh. Ready?
Yeah, so do you want to explain? I just have some spooky stories to tell, and you have spooky stories to tell.
I have 3 spooky stories, one of which I created and 2 of which I found off of the internet. And Shannon has another little challenge in this where she has to guess which one is the one I wrote.
Yeah, and you can all guess in the comments.
Yes.
Too. And I didn't write any of my spooky stories. I found them all on Google, so.
But it will be a guess as to which one I will be scared by. Ooh.
So, who wants to go first?
You can.
Okay, I don't know which story I want to tell. I guess I'll just start with the first one. I guess I need to put my spooky voice on. Okay, so this one is called Pretending to Be Asleep Doesn't Work. Guess what that's going to be about?
I'm guessing they're going to be trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, you figured it out.
Yay!
I'm not very spooky, so cue the spooky music, and here we go. It says, a young boy is sleeping in his bed on a usual night. He hears footsteps outside his door and peeks out of his eyes to see what is happening. The door swings open quietly to reveal a murderer carrying the corpses of his parents. After silently propping them up on a chair, he writes something on the wall in blood of the dead bodies. He then hides under the child's bed. The child is scared beyond belief. Yes.
That's spooky. That also escalated very quickly.
Yeah, you're already dead. He can't read the writing on the wall, and he knows the man is under his bed. Like any child, he pretends that he slept through the whole thing and hasn't awoken yet. He lays as still as the bodies, quietly hearing the breaths from under his bed. An hour passes, and his eyes are adjusting more and more to the darkness. He tries to make out the words, but it's a struggle. He gasps when he finally makes out the sentence. I know you're awake. Ah! He feels something shift underneath his bed. The end. The murderer knew he was awake the whole time.
Oh no.
Spooky.
Very.
I'm so good at telling scary stories.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Okay.
Tell a story?
This one is called The Hook. I'll put on my spooky voice.
Oh, your spooky voice is so good.
One summer night, a teenage boy was going out on a date with his girlfriend. He picked her up at her house and they drove out to the edge of town. They parked the car in a secluded spot that was well known. As they gazed at the lights of the town, the boy put his arm around the girl and switched on the car radio so they could listen to some music. The music suddenly stopped though, and a newsreader's voice came on the radio. This is an emergency announcement. Earlier tonight, a crazed murderer escaped from the state mental asylum. Police are warning citizens to be on their guard, since the patient is considered armed and dangerous. The insane killer is nicknamed the Hooked Man, because after he lost his right hand in an accident, it was replaced with a steel hook. Everyone in the area should be on the lookout for a man fitting this description. If you see anything suspicious, you should report it to the police immediately. The girl became frightened and asked to be taken home. She knew that the state insane asylum was not far from the lane. She was also worried that the remote area where they were parked was the perfect spot for a deranged madman to lurk. The boy was feeling brave and assured his girlfriend that they were perfectly safe. He locked all of the car doors. The girl became frantic and pushed him away, insisting that they leave immediately. In a huff, the boy slammed the car into gear and spun its wheels as he pulled out of the parking space. On the way back to town, they both calmed down, but the girl still held on tightly to her boyfriend. When they pulled up outside the girl's house, the boy got out of the car and walked around to open the door for his girlfriend. For a long time, he just stood there, staring at the door. At first, the girl couldn't figure out what was wrong. Then she realized that her door was still locked. She smiled and unlocked it. Still, the boy just stood there. The girl was puzzled and rolled down her window. Then she saw that the boy was staring down at the door handle. Slowly, she looked down herself and began to scream uncontrollably.
Did he have a hook?
There, on the door handle of her car, was a bloody hook. The end. The end.
So the boyfriend was the crazy hook guy the whole time?
No, it was on the door handle.
But how? But where was the hook guy?
The hook guy apparently left it on the door handle when they were on the lane.
Oh.
Hmm.
I thought it was the other guy.
No, it was not the boyfriend.
It's still terrifying.
Yes. Your turn.
Okay. Scroll down. So this one is my personal favorite. I heard this scary story years ago, and I thought it was spooky.
Oh.
So I found it on Google and wrote it down. You ready?
Yes.
So this one is called the Clown Statue.
Oh.
Clowns are scary, like Beyonce.
Slay. Slay, queen, slay.
So this one's called the Clown Statue. It says, a couple with children were trying out a new babysitter. About an hour after they'd left for a night out on the town, they realized that they had forgotten to give their cell phone number, so one of them called the babysitter. After she wrote down the number, the babysitter asked if she could watch satellite TV in their bedroom. She had just put the children to bed and wanted to watch a particular show. The parents said of course that she could watch TV in their room, and then the babysitter had one other request. If she could put a sheet over the blanket, or put a sheet over, or a blanket over the clown statue that was in their bedroom. It made her nervous. The parents quickly replied, take the children and go get to the neighbors. Call the police. We don't have a clown statue.
Oh no!
Yeah. So
what happens
the
next?
babysitter was there with the kids and asked about the clown statue and asked if they could cover it up because it made her uncomfortable because it was in their bedroom. But it wasn't a clown statue, it was a clown murder!
Oh no!
And I completely butchered that story because I forgot to rewrite it so it made more sense.
It was fall and a brand new house was being recently constructed. The homeowner who purchased it moved in as soon as it was finished. As the homeowner was moving in, they saw chip paint on the doors and door frames. The woman was annoyed at the cheap quality of the house, especially since it was quite expensive to build. Time went on and she began noticing more and more issues with the house, such as the door creaking, the stairs groaning, a constant drip from the faucet, the tile coming unglued from the floor. Though she soon realized that these issues were developing as time went on, rather than having existed all along. This is because one day she noticed a crack in the wall that hadn't been there before. This was very concerning news to her, and she called her repairman to fix the issue right away. Once the repairman arrived, he fixed the issues, he fixed the wall. But as soon as he left, the issues came back. The crack in the wall became even bigger than before. The woman became concerned and quickly decided that it was best to move out of her house. So she put her house up on sale. And she was very surprised as a new person offered to buy the house the very next day. So she went to bed and woke up, even with all of the groaning and creaking from the house that hadn't been there before. So the next day arrived, and the new woman who offered to buy the house arrived at her doorstep. The woman looked fairly unusual. She had white hair, a pale face, and dark brown eyes, almost as if they were black. And the woman, thinking that it would be best to sell the house quickly, even though the person was seemingly unusual, she said, "I hope you won't mind. There seem to be a few issues that I have not gotten a chance to repair yet." She thought it best not to add that the issues kept repeating themselves. So the woman said, "Oh, don't worry. I'm familiar with these issues, and I'm familiar with whom caused them." The end.
Gosh, that's creepy. Is she like dead?
Possibly.
Ugh.
One might say she was a skeleton. Ooh.
You know, I just walked into the fire.
Oh no! Don't walk into the fire!
But this one is called Cabin in the Woods.
Ooh.
Spooky cabins. Okay. It says it's told from the point of view of a dad. So yeah. It says, "My wife was shaking me quietly. I looked around the cabin. The girls must have gone to bed. The fire had burned down to embers and my glass of scotch was still in my hand. 'Something's tapping on the porch,' she said. Then I heard it too. I grabbed my axe and lit the lantern. I opened the door expecting a raccoon or a skunk, but instead I found a boy of about 10 years old. He stared at me petrified for a moment, then bolted down the path into the woods. I gave chase. I wouldn't leave the house if I were him, but okay. He was losing me, but then I heard him tumble to the ground. I leapt on top of him in a rage. 'Why were you knocking on my porch?' I screamed. 'My uncles told me to,' he stammered. But he was no longer angry, or I was no longer angry but confused. 'But why?' I asked. 'To get you out of the cabin.'" Yeah.
Oh my. Although I will ask one thing, why would you be angry at the boy for tapping on the cabin? And also, why would you run out after the boy?
Yeah.
If that was
I guess he just wanted him to stop.
If that was me, I would just slam the door and run away and hide
He
in the
chased
cabin.
the boy because the uncles wanted let him out of the cabin so they could go get the wife and the daughters.
Well then.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Rip.
This is called The Following. Now, this is told from a first-person perspective. My older sister has a ghost that's followed her around for years. I lived with her once for about 3 months, and so much weird stuff happened in that time. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it was that her ghost didn't like me being there. Things like going to bed with everything locked up and switched off, and waking up in the morning with the back door open, lights on, and the kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I'd asked her to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and put it back where she kept her makeup. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it, and it was nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy her a new one, and refused to listen to my side of the story. About a year or so later, when she was packing to move to a new house, she found the makeup in a shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was in a zipped-up suitcase that was underneath her bed. But probably the most scared I ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house, which never happened as there 4 other people lived there. I'd arrived home from work and headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors, windows, etc. were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and started squeezing a pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall Stop picking your zits. It was loud enough and sounded real enough, and at the time I thought it was my sister. So I laughed and told her no, when I asked her what she was going to make for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out into the hall. No one was there. I searched the house top to bottom, and there was no one home. I sat out on the front porch until someone else got home because I didn't want to be in there alone.
Oh no.
The end.
But what happened? Did the sister come home and find the ghost, or did she get murdered by a ghost?
I don't know. Maybe she got murdered.
I don't know. That was spooky too.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Okay. So we each told 3, so I have to ask, which one do you think was the one that I created?
Before we do that, leave your guesses down in the comments below. We'll wait.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun.
Can you just synopsis the 3 stories again as a refresher?
Okay. Well, the first one was the story with the couple and the hook man.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was the new house being constructed and her selling the house to a spooky person. And the last one was an older sister that had a ghost that followed her around for years, and then apparently the ghost creeped her out.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's the one that you wrote. I don't think it's the first one because I believe I've heard that story or something similar before.
Okay.
So I'm down between 2 and 3. I don't know. I'm leaning towards 2, but I could see you writing something like number 3. But I'm so indecisive.
You must choose one.
I know, I don't want to choose one.
Which one do you choose? Choose wisely. I say as I'm being burned by fire.
It's very menacing. Let's go with number 2.
You have chosen wisely.
Woohoo! Spooky.
Well done. What gave it away?
Nothing. I knew the first one was the first one, but I thought it was the second one when I wrote it. I don't know why. I was just like, oh yeah, I haven't heard something like this before. And then I was like, the third one sounded also like similar style, so I didn't know which one.
Yeah.
Which one it was.
I tried.
It was lucky 50-50 guess.
Yes. That was the one I wrote.
Yay! It was good. It was spooky.
I was going to have her be murdered, but I didn't want to add that.
Yeah, we had very few people dying.
I should have added a death scene. Oh.
It's okay. It was good. Yeah. So, that was fun. Oh no, I died!
I added a death scene.
I hope you guys enjoyed spooky story time.
Spooky.
And happy Halloween time.
Happy Halloween. Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, so, tell us your spooky stories down below.
Yes, comment
Find them on Google, Reddit, write your own.
Comment the spookiest story you can find. Ooh.
And if you're not already and enjoyed our funny spooky stories, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, comment down below. All links to everyone's channels will be down in the description.
Yay!
Yay!
Little did they know that wasn't the end. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.